Well, guys, thanks for coming. I just want to thank our staff. Really a relentless pursuit of a top 2 or 3 class. I guess consensus, I've just seen a couple of the rankings, and rankings are important. As long as you're keeping score, we like to do the best we can. You know, what I look at even more than the rankings, because some people have 30 in their class, some people have 25, is the average. You know, I just think that's kind of appealing to me to know that we're one of the top teams in the country as far as quality of player. And once again, this is all. What's it really mean? Nothing. Because you had a skinny neck kid from New Albany that played quarterback that ended up being okay, and he wasn't ranked very high. So every year that happens, but we do check those things out. I know I do. And so I want to thank our staff. So we, you know, obviously had a tough loss, came back and played our best football at the end of the season against our rival and against Notre Dame in the bowl game. And then we were right to work. And then we found out, you know, we anticipated maybe 7 juniors leaving for the NFL draft. And I know I've spoke with other coaches about this. It's not ideal, but I'm not sure what is when you find out. And I think the date is the 16th of January. Is that correct, when a junior has to declare? And I know Coach Saban and I have discussed it before, and other guys, and what's the ideal date? You know, is it in December when you're getting ready for bowl games and, you know, potential playoff opportunities? I think the date's pretty good. I'm a pretty big fan of the recruiting calendar and everything as is. So I don't know, but that hit us hard. I mean, that hit us hard, but because a lot of kids nowadays are already pre-committed. And so you have to go out and it's a street fight to get either back involved with the player, especially when you lose. For example, when we lost the guys in the secondary, that's why Jordan Fuller was such a key get at the 11th hour. So that's real, and we can discuss that. I do want to discuss about just our stance on the recruiting calendar, on regulation. You know, I hear this stuff about texting. I want to make this clear why. And this is a high school coaches and a high school player perspective, not a college coach, because who cares about college coaches? That's not what this is about. This is about them and not screwing up a high school kid's senior year or junior year. If you text someone, you can't stop that. So you have a phone full of what? Text messages. So if I don't want to hear from that school, they're going to keep hitting me because that's their job. And usually it's not them, it's maybe an intern doing it. So here's a kid in high school getting flooded, bombarded with text messages. You're sitting there doing this all day. If it's social media, you can determine who you want to hear from. So you can help us out. Someone, if you want to write an article, say it's the most nonsense thing I've ever heard in my life. When I hear people say it's the same thing, then you're clueless on how to use this thing, which I was several years ago, but I'm not now. So any help you can give with that to put some common sense into when I hear the certain committees put together to have these conversations, I'd like to know how many people on the committee is actually recruited. And then are you thinking about the 17-year-old or the 16-year-old instead of the 50-year-old? And that's what we have to continue to do. And we push that very hard here at Ohio State, and Gene supports that, I know. And so regulation is big. For example, another nonsense rule came across our face a couple years ago and said unlimited mailings, unlimited, you can send whatever you want to send. That's once again, that goes in the stupid column of not thinking things through. So regulation is big. Beef up these NCAA with all the money made from the college football playoff and Final Fours and all those type of things, and beef up the enforcement staffs and keep it a level playing field, and also, more importantly in all that, not change the lives of the young people. I'm a big proponent of a July dead period from start to finish, nothing allowed. Let the players go enjoy their families before they get ready for a very long season. Let the coaches enjoy their families as they get ready for a very long season. The NCAA has done an excellent job with the dead period during Christmas. And I'm much appreciative of that. And then final thought on that is also the early signing period. You know, why would you do that? I'm not a fan of that. You're moving it just forward and forward. What if the kid wants to change his mind? If the kid wants to change his mind because of coaching changes, because of other circumstances, that player should be allowed to change his mind. Once again, take it out of the minds of a 50-year-old and put it in the minds of a 16, 17-year-old. Also, if you're going to let people contact a junior in a high school in spring, just visualize a great player, what that will look like. So don't go to class the month of May because you're going to be meeting with coaches all day long. And of course that doesn't make sense to do that. And they say, well, coaches are doing it anyways. Well, fire the coaches, find the coaches, and put the schools on probation for the schools that are doing that. So that's just the Ohio State, and I don't want to speak for Gene Smith, but I know I speak for our coaching staff that we feel very strongly about strong regulation and keeping the recruiting calendar as is. With that said, our staff went out and grinded, and we had to replace some very good players. And I'm very appreciative of what they did. 17 guys were committed early, and before Christmas, Mark told me, and those 17 guys didn't visit anywhere else, and they signed at Ohio State. And that tells you a little bit about the relationships made between our coaching staff and them, the trust that they had with our coaching staff, and the quality of person and player. Not that you're not allowed to change your mind, but we have, it's a pretty stable place right now, Ohio State, and that makes our life easy. Quint from ESPN was here and says another uneventful signing date. I don't know if I agree with that because there were some events going on, but our guys, it was pretty a great day for us, and we're anxious to get going. Instead of going through every player and just giving you the recruiting coach speak, I'm going to just kind of open it up for questions and maybe get a couple extra questions because we'll go from there.
Very good. Fifth row middle, Steve.
Yeah, Coach, just the idea of the verbal commitment nowadays, it seems like you guys took probably 4 or 5 guys who were committed elsewhere. You had 3 or 4 guys who were committed to you at various points in the process and went elsewhere. Just, I don't know, what do you make of this? And is somebody's word their bond anymore? And two-way street, and coaches want to keep guys? And I don't know, what do you make of that whole thing?
I think at the end of the day, my daughter went through it, so I got a little different. She can go where she wants to go. If she changes her mind, she's allowed to do that. And we encourage our players to look around. A kid that wants to commit early and doesn't look, we often say, just take a look, because we want you to make sure this is where you want to be. Because what happens if you get stuck with them and they don't want to be here, or they wish they hadn't come, that's a nightmare you're dealing with. So we have a little different perspective. We did lose some commitments, and we know that's going to happen. I think we already got 10 for next year or something. Are all 10 going to hold? No, and we don't expect them to. If they and their family want to go look at another place for some reason, just be honest with us, and we're honest with them, and that's not going to change.
Front row middle, Gabe.
Are there any players on the roster right now, Urban, that won't be back this season, either due to medical reasons or otherwise?
Well, we gave Craig Fada and Joe Berger scholarships. They're not going to be counted for the fall. That's a spring and summer scholarship, and then if some open from attrition, but I don't think so.
Kyle Berger, he'll be back.
Oh no, Kyle Berger's
done.
He's what do we call that? Medical. Yeah, his knee.
And the quick recruiting question, Malcolm Pridgeon. I assume if you recruited JUCO, you think he's going to play right away. Can you talk a little bit about him and what you expect?
Yeah, that was all Ed Warner and Greg Studrawa. We don't recruit junior college, nothing against junior college guys, but we try to build from the youth up. And they kept telling me about this player, the offensive tackle from Nassau. And I saw his size, and I watched the videotape. Very impressive guy, and he has some work to do in the classroom yet. He came on his visit and stole everybody's heart. Everybody that met him, you guys will love him when he gets here. I mean, he's a 6'7", 320-pound guy that is interested in culinary arts, like really, and just a great young man. And our offensive line, Pat Elfline and I went to dinner with him, and Ed and Stud, and you guys will really enjoy him. And so what's that mean? Yeah, we don't recruit a junior college guy to sit. He is 3 for 2, but we hope to get him here in June and compete for a starting spot.
Second row, Ari.
I'm going to take one out of Tim's playbook. I've got 3 quickies for you. You were excited about your 2013 class when you first signed it. You could tell that the day of it was special, and then look what happened. Can you make any parallels between this class with how deep it is and
I hope so.
rankings and things?
Yeah,
kind of feel similar in any way?
Yeah, I really do. But every coach in the country right now is walking up to this podium and saying how great their class is. The next phase of all that is development. Everybody has good classes, but some guys pan out, some guys don't. Why is that? We take great pride in the fact that now the work starts, and it starts immediately. Recruiting's over for that class. The minute that fact showed up, Now it's get to work, and they're going to get a strength program immediately, and there's a lot of pressure on them to perform and in the classroom, off the field, and get in shape when they get here. So, yeah, very excited about this class, to answer your question.
You guys make relationships with kids. It's ongoing, sometimes for more than a year, and sometimes those relationships last for a long time, and then they don't end up coming here.
Yeah.
The guy like Kareem Walker, who ended up at Michigan, he was committed to you during the national championship game at halftime. I think you guys got the call before the game. Can you tell me a little bit about the emotions of you and your coaching staff when you create a relationship with somebody like that? He's supposed to be a big part of your class, and then not only does he not come, he goes to your arch rival. I mean, just the relationship and maybe how that might have felt.
Well, some of relationships it's better fits than other relationships, and sometimes it's heartbreaking when you get really close to a young guy and a family, and he decides on somewhere else. But that's part of the business. We don't worry about what we didn't get. We worry about what we got, and we're very happy with our running back situation, that Antonio, but that's part of that's going to exist for the rest of time in recruiting.
Last question: would you ever spend the night at a recruit's house?
No.
Front row right, Tim.
I don't know, follow that one. Urban, is there one guy or a couple of guys that when you got their commitment here in the last several weeks, I heard you talk about Jordan Fuller, you supposedly were sitting in your driveway and you honked the horn.
Yeah.
Was Dwayne Haskins, was he on that group? Tell me just what's the impact of getting a Dwayne Haskins when you had a quarterback leave and then you've got...
That's right. That was a very strenuous moment when the previous commitment decided not to play the position. And I was actually in a hotel room in New Jersey when I got the phone call, and I mean, my mouth went dry. I said, what? And because every other quarterback was committed, basically. And then we started searching the ones that were not committed, and to be quite honest, it wasn't a very, what word am I looking for? Very attractive pool of players that our expectation of quarterback. And I made the call to Dwayne, and we had a great relationship prior to. He's been here several times. I know he's a big Ohio State fan growing up, and the relationship instantly was right exactly where it was when we went our separate ways. So he is an impact recruit. I anticipate after going to they went through a workout and watching him, and watching his film and the way he's been trained, but he's got an excellent quarterback coach, that he will compete for playing time as a true freshman. Keandre Jones falls in that category. He, to make dinner taste better last night, I made the coaches watch Keandre, Jordan Fuller, and Haskins before we left last night, just to make when you go home, that kind of makes you feel good that you got three guys like that coming in. They're all wonderful people, too.
I don't know the way to ask this up straight up. Is Stephen Collier, you were talking about your quarterback situation on radio today. You've got JT, you've got Joey Burrow, and you've got Dwayne. And Stephen Collier never seems to come up. Where is he in the mix, I guess?
This is a critical spring for him. What's it going to be, his third year? So this is the time for him to produce. He works his tail off, and to get in the mix, you got to be pretty good, because Joe Burrow's really moving, and then the one that's walking through the doors in June is really good. So it's all about competing and making. This spring's huge for Steven.
And then last thing, at least for me, defensively, who do you see really impact? You just talked about Keandre Jones a while ago.
And Jordan Fuller.
Do you need these guys to make an impact?
Absolutely. Nick Bosa's an automatic that we're not going to. I say this every year. I do not want to redshirt these guys. It's not our plan. We do not recruit you and say let's sit them down for a while. We want to play them immediately. If they're good enough after 3 years and they want to go to the NFL, that's their choice. We want to get a degree. But the days of fifth-year guys, at Ohio State, they don't usually. If they're around for 5 years, something happened, or they're not good enough, and or they were beat out. But our way of recruiting is like the 2013 class, 2000, like we're doing, and go play. So this class, I would anticipate a lot of guys playing.
Third row right, Tony.
Coach, regarding Gavin Cupp, who basically gave up his spot on another team's commitment, in that class for a chance to become a Buckeye. What does that say about him?
Incredible.
And then, do you also feel an obligation to give him a longer look because of what he gave up?
Yeah, great question. The Gavin Cupp stories, this is a credit to him. He wanted to be a Buckeye. He was committed somewhere else in the Big Ten and knew that if he came to our camp, there's something might happen, and that's cool. I don't know the whole story, but I don't think he was part of their class anymore. And I went down and I stood and watched him because I knew what was going on. And but I don't micromanage that position either. That's up to the line coach and the coordinator to present to me. But I gave that an extra look because that's tough. But we didn't give it to him because we felt sorry for him. He earned it.
Second row middle, Ryan.
Last year, you talked about how you were up all night with the Mike Weber thing and Isaiah Prince and a few others. This year, the class got done, for the most part, a lot earlier. Do you attribute that to, the impact of the national championship, or was it anything that y'all did, or why do you think y'all were able to finish?
That's a great question as well, and I think just relationship with our coaches, and yeah, there was no drama last night, and that was it.
And also, between all the red shirts last year and the incoming freshmen, you'll have about 45 players with freshman eligibility this coming season.
Wow.
Have you ever had anything like that?
No.
How do you handle that?
Play them all. 45 with 4 years of eligibility. Yeah, it's just, I call it the year of development here. Our staff has been pounded on that, and that's in every phase of their lives because there's such a, I wish more of the kids would have played this year, hindsight, but we were a pretty good team. So, yeah, I don't know if that's ideal. I'm not sure you want better spacing out than that, but sometimes it doesn't always happen that way.
Front row left, Doug.
Urban, specifically on Dwayne Haskins, what are his skills not only as a thrower but as a runner?
Good. I don't know if you saw the USA game. There's a highlight video of him out there, and he's a very good athlete. Wasn't asked to run a lot, but when he did, he's a very good athlete. I remember when we ran him around here, a very good athlete. As good a release and arm strength that I've seen at that age since I've been recruiting. If you go watch his highlight tape and just watch the ball come out of his hand, his arm strength, he's a good 6'3 plus. And the quarterback coach, like I told you, we're going to actually have him come in here and meet with us because he's that good. The fundamentals that Dwayne Haskins possesses right now is as good as I've ever seen a young quarterback.
And we talked about this during the season with Cardale and JT, just sort of the idea of having a quarterback who's at least a threat as a runner, especially in that read game. When you recruit quarterbacks, whether it's Joe Burrow, whether it's Dwayne Haskins, whether it's whoever else is coming down the pike, do you have to have that? Do you have to see that ability to be a run threat at least?
Yeah, and I think Alex Smith is probably the best example we've ever had. That he certainly was a run threat. He wasn't JT or Braxton or Tebow, but he was a run threat. We can't have a guy that's just. I don't think those guys exist. I think they're one's in the Super Bowl, Peyton Manning, and maybe Tom Brady's the other one. I think every other quarterback from Roethlisberger to every great college quarterback has that ability to get out of a jam. Now, I don't say he has to run the ball like Braxton because those are rare guys, but we will not recruit a quarterback that can't extend the play because we actually like playing against those kind of guys.
And just, I don't think we talked about this with the coaching move that was made with Coach Dedrawa coming in here. Was Tim looking to move into an administrative role? Was that just something that had to happen because we needed to make a shift?
Yeah, we began conversations a year ago at this time. A lot of it has nothing to do with Tim's quality as a coach, but I made the decision to Ed Warner to be the offense coordinator and to coach all five. I don't know if anybody does that in NCAA in college football. It's too hard, and it showed that we did a good job and led the league in rushing, I believe, and some other good things. But we still, the last two games were outstanding. 40-plus points, over 1,000 yards against two top 10 defenses, and I need someone upstairs to work together. And that's where he belongs. That's where he's going to be. And so we had to do that. And he had to hire a line coach. And I actually tried to hire a stud when I first was hired. He was at LSU, and for family reasons, he couldn't move his family at the time. So he was my first line coach at Bowling Green in 01.
All right, we're going to continue. Folks, I'm going to just have to ask you we're going to just have to hold it to one question so I can try to get as many questions as possible. Second row right, Dave.
Yeah, Urban, obviously you guys do your own thing very well, but to follow up on Ari's last question, how much do you guys pay attention to what Michigan is doing? Obviously it's probably been hard to escape the constant headlines. Just what do you think of some of their tactics? How much do you pay attention to them, and Does it cause you to reevaluate?
I was asked the other day about that we certainly monitor everything, not just them, but the eastern side is one of the most competitive conference divisions in college football, so we know everything that everybody's doing. We monitor the best recruiting schools in the country and see what they do. I made the comment that we're going to look at mailings, graphics. However, we have to remain true to ourselves and who are we and who am I and who do I like to hire and how we, our focus is on Real Life Wednesdays and graduation, life after football, and if you're blessed enough, go on to the NFL and win some championships along the way. And we're not going to stray from that. That's been Ohio State style for as long as I've been alive, and it's not going to change. So, but I'll tell you this about our conference: they're recruiting their tails off. The Big Ten's on fire right now, and I can tell you on a national respect, I can feel it. I've heard about it. Guys are really working, and so it's very good for the Big Ten Conference right now.
And real quickly, very, very off topic. Coaches back in the old days used to use their platform for political endorsements, that kind of stuff. These days, that's very taboo. Coaches trying to stay out of the mix.
Gene thought it'd be a good time for me to tell you my thoughts on the election coming up.
I was going to say, obviously,
Gene, is it okay if I?
Obviously, all eyes on. Why is it? We see that with coaches. Why is it? Do you feel it's most appropriate in your role just to kind of stay out of the mix? What's your take on all that?
Well, my job description is very clear, and that's coach Ohio State football, and the focus is on 18 to 22-year-olds. I just have strong beliefs, but I'm not going to share that with you guys, and I don't think that's appropriate.
Far left, Kevin.
I wanted to ask you about a couple of the local guys. Jonathan Cooper's already here. You can't really do much with him, but he works with
Outstanding.
the strength coach, and then also about Malik Harrison as well, who just committed and signed today.
Yeah, that's Luke. Luke knew him for 2 years. His basketball highlight video is worth watching if you haven't seen it yet. It's ridiculous. We sent at least 4 coaches to watch him play. He's one of those typical Ohio tough guys that we think is going to develop into something. I can't tell you what position. He might be a hand-down rushing a quarterback someday like Sam Hubbard. He might be a outside backer like a Darren Lee, or he might be a tight end H-back. You just don't know. We just really liked his parents. We loved the fact he wanted to be a Buckeye. And Ohio kids like that usually turn out really well.
Far left, Matt.
Slightly off the topic of recruiting, but when you turn on the Super Bowl on Sunday, you got 5 guys that were formerly of Ohio State, a lot of them you coached. What does that do for you, the program, and maybe a dovetail in terms of recruiting?
Well, we're using it now. I mean, everybody talked about what do we do to sell do we have to do certain things to sell our program? Someone asked that question. And the Super Bowl, that's going to be very fresh news to every recruit in the United States of America. The fact on Pro Day that's going to show up here in a month of March, I think it is, that will probably be the biggest Pro Day in the history of college football. I don't know how you gauge that. The draft, people are throwing around numbers like 15 players or something, or maybe potential 6 first-rounders. And then you throw on the highest graduation rate and highest APR in Ohio State football history, and a 50-4 record. We focus on the things you just mentioned. So there's a lot of things to sell here, and it's Mark's job and our job to make sure that that's out in full force.
Second row left, Lori.
Coaches, some of these wild recruiting stories get out there. Do you find that recruits start making wild requests of you? Coach, will you dab for me? Will you ride a seesaw for me? Will you hold a signing event with Hulk Hogan? I mean, does that kind of thing get crazier and crazier as kids become more demanding as they see what coaches will do?
I haven't been asked that.
No?
I imagine that's coming, but no, it hasn't happened.
Middle, Tim.
I just wanted to ask you, you already touched on Dwayne and Keandre, but you also had a commit from Benjamin Victor all on the same day a few weeks back. Just wondered maybe what all went into that, all coming on one day, and have you ever had a day on the recruiting trail like that where you got...
It was a good day. It was, Zach Smith was on him he's been, at least 2 years we've recruited Victor. Dwayne was very involved in that. Dwayne Haskins is an excellent recruiter, and he fits, and I went down there and I wanted to make sure he fit because, he's in South Florida. How is he going to migrate up here? But I'm blown away at what kind of quality kid he is. He's qualified. He's ready to rock and roll and go play. But Coach Smith really did a great job recruiting him. That was a big get.
Right, Austin.
We're going to ask this knowing that 18 of these kids haven't ever stepped on campus or gone through a workout with you, but as you stand here, is there a number in your mind of how many you think will contribute or how many you need to, considering some of the holes you have to replace?
I'm hoping 18 of them play. I kind of went through that in my, on special teams, and I'm going to force that issue with our position coaches. Sometimes position coaches, they protect themselves by saying the kid doesn't know what he's doing, so I'm not going to give him those reps, and so I'm not going to allow that this year. I'm going to really. Last year was so hard because we were a very loaded or older team, and this year we're pushing them out there. I'm going to make sure we're pushing our guys out there and let them go play.
Is there a spot more than others that you know is more pressing?
Yeah, the secondary. Yeah. Yep.
And last couple over here, Don, to the right.
Coach, with that in mind, how much competition do you think we'll see? And you've obviously had a lot since you've been here, but with the holes you have to fill, this class coming in, what's it going to be like?
Well, if you remember, 14 was like this a little bit as we went into spring ball. Eli Apple wasn't Eli Apple, and for God's sakes, Zeke Elliott wasn't. He was a guy that looked very average his freshman year. And then you throw in Steve Miller, Curtis Grants, Darryl Baldwin's, all these guys that became very good players, and that's the challenge for our coaching staff, to be 9 strong and develop your guys. And the process has started already 2 weeks ago. And that's a very critical year for development.
Real quick, just close up what obviously passes the look test and watching play. Great in for us.
Yeah, he's playing. He had the knee injury, but he's well ahead of schedule. He looks fantastic. He's a little ahead of his brother at this time. That's probably not fair for him to say that because his brother was really developed by Larry and really Coach Vrabel and Larry. And but that's a standing offer for the Bosa family if they decide to have more children along their journey. They have a scholarship offer.
And final question from Marla over here to the right.
One more question about the comparison to 14. When you talk about the year of development, is it the spring that's the key time? And
everything.
All of the coaches, or is it? I assume you have to have fast learners. And I just wonder.
Yes. It's everything, and that's one of my jobs. A job that I enjoy is just continually pushing our coaches and tell me about this guy, and if something's going on. And that whole power of the unit that we live by around here, and 9 strong, is that from academics to body weights to how many times you do a set up 225, that's all the coach's responsibility, and developing them and teaching them how to play football. And I'm lucky we have very good teachers here, and we just added 2 excellent teachers in Shiano and Strudrawa. So this will be as critical offseason we've ever had.
Coach, thank you.
Thank you.